Welcome to the Realty Plus Masterclass webinar. And in fact, today is the finale of the three-city special South series that Realty Plus had initiated. Our first city was Chennai, then we visited Bengaluru, and now we are in the city of Hyderabad, where we will be talking about commercial real estate. But before we begin with our discussion and I introduce our eminent panelists, a small brief introduction that I would like to give for the Realty Plus and what its products are. Realty Plus is part of Exchange for Media and Business World Group, and we have been serving real estate industry for more than 16 years now. Our monthly publication is Realty Plus magazine, which covers all aspects of real estate, and it is available in print as well as e-edition. Apart from this monthly magazine, we also have a yearly product, which is the Realty Plus coffee table book, which is launched every year on specific topics, and it is a collector's edition. So some of the topics which we have covered in the last 7 coffee table books were 100 luxury projects of the year, affordable projects of the year, building material brands. Also, we also featured the marvels of real estate, the real estate projects from across the country, known for their distinct features. And we have our upcoming edition of coffee table book, which will be the 8th coffee table book, and it is called Realty Plus Super CXOs. A very interesting product, and in fact, it is already in production stages, already garnering a lot of interest from the industry peers. It will be highlighting India's top 100 real estate influencers. So a very niche coffee table book that we are bringing out. Another interesting publication that we are introducing is Realty Plus Tech Titans, which is a digital book on technology, and it is in a partnership with JLL as the knowledge partner. This will feature real estate companies which have been proactively in adopting technology in a very big way, and also the technology solution providers which are coming out with innovative technology, especially for the property segment. So whether it is startups or it is the fortune companies, we will be featuring them in this. Apart from these publications, as many of you would already know, we have been doing Realty Plus Conclave and Excellence Awards in physical form in 6 cities from across the country. Now, as you know, we are all on virtual platforms. We are doing everything online. So we have taken this Realty Plus Conclave and Excellence Awards on a virtual platform now. And the first of it, we will be doing in August for the Gujarat region. So this is going to be one of its kinds awards evening on a very innovative platform. So keep watching this space for this product. We also now have started with the Realty Plus Digital Connect initiative, because as we all know, digital is the way to go in the present scenario, and a lot of activities we have been doing under this initiative, such as the masterclass webinar that we are doing today. We also have the Realty Plus Real Talk series, where we do video interviews from the experts from real estate and other segments of real estate, property, design, and development. We also have a newsletter in e-form, which goes out to the entire database every morning with the latest news, expert opinions and views, and a lot of interesting facts and figures from the industry. We also are very active on social media, whether it is Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and this is the medium through which we connect with our peers, with our readers, with our partners, and we do a lot of promotional activities on these. So this was just a snapshot of the activities that we have been doing and our forthcoming products that we will be introducing. In case you would like to know more about it, please do get in touch with Tripti Kedia, publisher and business head at Tripti at exchangeformedia.com. Now we come back to the webinar of today. As I mentioned, this is the final episode of the South series. And in fact, our Chennai episode, which happened on Thursday, 9th of July, it was quite a success. We had almost 8,000 viewers on Facebook. And for the Bengaluru, which we did on 10th of July, which was yesterday, that had more than 9,000 viewers at the conclusion of the session. And in fact, because this video is available on Realty Plus YouTube page, we are seeing that, the numbers are increasing day by day. For Chennai, the viewership has reached 22,000 now, and for, I believe, Bengaluru session, 19,000. And we are expecting the similar numbers, the viewership for this episode as well, because we have such an eminent panel today. So before I introduce the panelists for this session, we would be later in the evening be joining by Mr. Arun Manikya, Senior Vice President, South Region for Schindler, India, and K.E. Ranganathan, Managing Director for ROCA, who would be putting up few questions to the panelists. Before they join us in the evening, let's introduce our eminent speakers for this session. I will start with the moderator of the session, Mr. Ram Chandnani, who is the Managing Director, Advisory and Transaction Services, CBRE South Asia Private Limited. In fact, Ram, in his present capacity, is responsible for developing execution strategy and enabling business growth for CBRE, and he has over 23 years of experience in real estate. He has worked with clients across asset classes and has been advising them on complex leasing, land and investment transactions, and consolidation strategy. Ram, a very warm welcome to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for being here with us, Ram. I now introduce our speakers in alphabetical order. We have Anuj Kapoor, Managing Director, Stratcap Corporate Advisors LLP. He has been executing multiple ground-up commercial developments, and in fact, it's been like more than 1 million square feet of transactions that he has done in niche classes from healthcare, industrial, and science parks, etc. He is known for his deal structuring capabilities, and his firm has assisted several mid-market real estate enterprises in scaling up and making them investment ready. Anuj, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Sapna. Thank you so much.
We also have with us Mr. Mahesh Khaitan, who's the Director, Salarpuria, Sattva, and he's one of the veterans of the industry. Mr. Khaitan has 2.5 decades of experience, and he has executed over 110 projects across the country. So a very eminent speaker that we have with us here today. He is responsible for Group's foray in the Hyderabad market with over 18 million square feet. And in fact, he is the man behind the flagship project of the group, which is the Salarpuria Knowledge Park in Hyderabad. Mr. Khaitan, pleasure to have you here with us today.
Thank you.
We also have with us Mr. G. Venkata Raman. He is Vice President, Corporate Properties Group, Wells Fargo, India and Philippines. In fact, Colonel G.V. Raman, he is a military veteran, and in corporate world, he has been here for 8 years, more than 8 years now. And as in his present role, he brings to the table the service provider and the occupier's point of view. And that is what we will be expecting him to do here, to bring the perspective of the occupiers. Mr. Venkata Raman, a very warm welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
We now have with us another seasoned professional, Mr. Vinamra Srivastava. He is the CEO for Business Parks, CapitaLand India. And Vinamra leads the firm's strategic growth of office portfolio in India, from investments, developments, operation management, and strategic planning. And in fact, he was previously based in Singapore, heading the group corporate strategy and development. So Vinamra, a very warm welcome to you. Thanks for joining today.
Thank you. Thanks, Sapna.
And lastly, we have a real estate professional who's actually considered the thought leader also in the industry, Mr. Vinod Rohira, who's the Managing Director and CEO for Commercial Real Estate and REITs at Raheja Corp. And in fact, he was the pioneer who, he pioneered the concepts of landmark business districts and retail complexes. And he has been part of Raheja Group for more than 2 decades now. And in fact, one of the fine example of his work with Raheja is the Mindspace, which was built with the idea of establishing self-contained world-class business districts across the cities. And we have already seen them in a lot of cities. So we know what Mindspace brings to the commercial real estate. In fact, he's also played a key role in shaping the prominent shopping destinations, the Inorbit Mall. Mr. Rohira, a very warm welcome to you. Pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
So Ram, we have, the introductions for all the speakers today. I will hand it over to you to please take ahead the conversation.
Great. Thank you, Swapna. I hope I'm clear.
Yes, Ram, you're loud and clear.
Yes, Ram.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. I know it's a Saturday afternoon, but we've been joined with an eminent panelist over here. We're here to deliberate on the road ahead for Hyderabad. So look forward to a discussion. Obviously, with the implications of COVID-19, we've seen performed recovery strategy by a lot of corporate occupiers and developers going forward. Obviously, we came from an all-time high of 2019, where we saw the overall absorptions cross the 60 million square feet mark in India. And Hyderabad, no doubt, was one of the leading in the pack after Bangalore in terms of overall absorptions of 13 million square feet. Obviously, the situations are changing dramatically in 2020. And no doubt, Hyderabad is leading the pack in terms of strategy from the government. From the time the formation of the government in Hyderabad, the Telangana government has been really proactive in formation in terms of strategy, in terms of growth policies for the real estate sector. We've obviously seen a large number of GICs set up base and grow their base in Hyderabad. We've obviously seen a lot in terms of the startup ecosystem really pick up in the Hyderabad market. The state government obviously has been very proactive in terms of widening the infrastructure base that already Hyderabad had, and obviously has been very proactive in their initiatives on policy. Obviously, Hyderabad has been very cost effective when you compare it to some of the major cities across India. And in the last couple of years, we've also seen a lot of focus on new age sectors like gaming, etc., which are an animation, which really are looking at putting for Hyderabad to the forefront. Obviously, the office market has been focused on the key micro markets in the western part of the city, predominantly the IT and the ITES micro locations that everyone's familiar with. Obviously, we do see a supply, and a lot of people have mentioned about this in the past, that the supply could be a challenge with the quantum of FSI that's available in the city per square foot. So obviously that has been a concern with a lot of people in terms of the density being developed per square foot. In our recent APAC news flash, we actually conducted a detailed survey where we had 90% of the overall occupiers respond on their strategies going forward during these COVID times. Obviously, remote working has been the focus to make sure that employees are safe and secure. But obviously, we've seen 45% of those respondents who confirmed that they looked at rotation strategies in their overall policies while this COVID period during the pandemic. With our engagement with a lot of global real estate leaders across the world and in India, we truly believe, and this is a feedback from all of them, that the office will continue to remain as a material factor in terms of recruitment, retention. Obviously, will remain as a silent partner from a strategy and culture of an organization. I think what's really going to take shape over the next 6 months to a year is how occupiers and developers really work together to enhance their communication, which is going to be a very, very important factor. And I think very importantly, the workplace itself is going to become a lot smarter in terms of automation, in terms of contactless entries, exits. Obviously, occupiers are looking at solutions in terms of how to keep their employees productive and more collaborative in these times going forward. And how will the occupier community really nourish the workplace to make sure that the employees are safe when they bring their employees back to work. I think this is something for the developers to really look at and see, and we will deliberate this during our session. I'm going to kick off the session with you, Anuj. Obviously, during this COVID period, you've seen a lot post the NBFC crisis. Obviously, what's your expectation from a government perspective to support the real estate sector? Obviously, we're coming off 2018-19's NBFC crisis, and more so with the supply situation. There has been a mismatch of relevant ready-to-move in supply. But going forward, do you think the government can support the real estate sector?
So thank you, Ram. The way I see it locally, if I have to talk about the local Hyderabad market, the state government is pretty proactive here as compared to a lot of other places what I keep hearing about. Uh, uh, there's a lot of proactiveness in terms of the speed at which they have worked in terms of approvals, and there's a lot of focus on development of urban infrastructure. And in fact, even in the lockdown time, the government focused a lot in terms of improving a lot of urban infrastructure, which we are already seeing live and active now. The CREDI has been, as I understand, CREDI has been very actively engaging with the local government in terms of taking up their issues. They came back with very positive attitude. In fact, as recent as just a couple of days back, they've issued a GO where they've already allowed deferment of fees which developers need to pay for approvals, by almost giving them 4 half-yearly installment, extending it to 2 years payout period. That I see as a very big support coming in. The way I see it, as far as the government, I don't think that the developers expect a lot from the government side, but as far as the approvals are coming on time, the process is smooth, and the government is listening to their broader issues. I think that will take care of most of the requirement. Another thing which I see is there was a lot of talk about capping of FSI and things like those, but we have kind of post lockdown and things like those, we have not heard anything much on that, which I feel now the market dynamics itself will correct a lot of those supply which was projected in a very, very substantial manner. So I see that those market forces will auto correct those things. And at least locally, I can say that the government has been pretty proactive in supporting the developer challenges. Ram?
I think we have lost Ram. Connection is on. Anyone, Mr. Khaitan, would you like to pitch it something? You're on mute. Yeah.
Hi. Was I audible? Not audible?
Ram, you were not audible. If you can repeat the question.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sure. So, Colonel Raman, I'm going to come to you as a large occupier who has a large presence in Hyderabad, Bangalore, and Chennai, 3 hubs for Wells Fargo. And I'm sure your views are not from your organization perspective, and you made that clear prior to the panel. What's your expectation from your developer partners in these times as an occupier?
Okay, thanks for that question, Ram. I think I like the idea of what you said earlier. I think these are difficult times. Everyone, it is really unprecedented. We never expected such a situation to come up. I think these are the times when the developers and the occupiers have to work together, and it has to be a collective approach to see that we tide over the situation successfully. And I'm hoping, honestly speaking, 2020 is gone. So 2021 is what we all should be looking at from a short-term perspective. And in these times, I think the developers can do a lot to support the occupiers per se. I'm talking about the entire industry. And I'll give an example. For example, let's say today, almost no organization is working beyond 10 to 15%, depending on what their requirements are, right? The critical processes which they have to operate there, getting those people back. And the biggest risk for them are twofold. One is what the pandemic brings about is, one is the human capital loss, and the second is the facilities loss. And these are the major risks. That's the reason they are unable to bring their workforce to the office. If that be so, what they have done is they've pushed those people from work from home, right? As you brought out in your introduction. But this is not going to sustain for long. We have to eventually bring back people to work. For that, even today, for that matter, there are organizations which want to bring in beyond 10 to 15%, but they are a little worried from a risk perspective. Let's say they bring the entire, let's say an organization has one particular building in which they have just about 2,000 people working. They can't bring about 1,000 people today because of the risk which I just mentioned. This is the time which I expect, in case a builder could be innovative and probably give some options to the occupiers, maybe hub and spoke model, get along, get in sync with them. See, these hub and spoke are basically co-working spaces. They have also been hit with this pandemic. They are also, the space is available. Maybe an occupier would be comfortable dealing with one builder, the landlord, who is already in engagement with him, providing those probably 5 to 6 options across the cities where the occupier can probably bring in his workforce to mitigate the risk to an extent. Even if one particular workspace gets down, he doesn't have too much of an effect. So these are the kind, I mean, at a lower level, there could be many other things, but I'm not talking about it. But I think the builders have to get innovative to give out some kind of a solution. Of course, on the lighter vein, we'll obviously expect the rentals to be.
Sure.
Anyway, yeah,
Sure.
back to you, Ram. Ram, can you hear me?
Yes. I had
So, Raman, as you said,
on my video off because of some bandwidth issues.
Yeah, I think that there are some bandwidth issues. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sapna, probably you could take on.
Yeah, I heard you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mahesh, I'm going to come to you. What do you suggest?
you're not.
Yeah.
Can you repeat, Ram, again?
Mahesh,
Yeah.
a question to you. What do you think, from an industry perspective, would be the investor sentiment? Obviously, you have a large partner, priority partner for your Hyderabad portfolio. Can you hear me, Mahesh?
Yes,
Hello?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I said you have a partner, Blackstone, for your Hyderabad portfolio. So from an industry investor sentiment perspective, going forward, what do you expect?
It's good question.
So
Ram. Thanks.
from an investor perspective, is your investors expecting anything dramatically different in these times going forward?
Yeah. First,
Can you share your views, please?
Yeah. Yeah, understood, Ram. First, my sincere suggest to the basically to industry, my developer friends actually, to at this tough time, be stay positive and don't lose your heart out actually right now. This is not the first time in the industry just going through the such phase. We have seen such phase in the before in 2000 and between 2008 and 2014, particularly especially in Hyderabad. By the time subprime crisis and political instability was there. However, as you know that Hyderabad has come out this and demand touched the more than 10 million square feet in the recent years. So my suggestion was first to my sincere friends to don't lose your patience. It just like we just lost the time, not to the business. So same kind of confidence we have to give to our partners. And as you know that Hyderabad is established market, whether in terms of availability resources, housing, connectivities, social infrastructures, and the proper balance of historical and urban climate. So my suggestion to the industry is don't get into the race right now and competition during this period. This would not be right approach for the long-term sustainability. And keep your investor in confidence on key decisions you take. Investors also understand the current situations and they would be more accommodative when they see long-term target are being achieved. Same thing as you know that Ram, we have been partner for one project, then partner for second one, partner for third one. So investors always will be keep looking positive towards you when they being a very transparent and right approach to investors. And so you have to be more transparent as like with the investors. So ensure that investments are safe. Like other industries, we are facing same situation today. So don't look at for short terms, look at for long-term prospect point of view, and ensure your whatever to your titles are to keep more clear when you're just going for to your investors. Second thing, like I would suggest to industry right now, take those projects which are on. So you won't be coming to most in the competition right now. As before you already mentioned that a lot of projects are coming up, supplies and demands. So I would suggest to that right now, what are your basically demands, your project which are committed project, take on those projects only. Pose right now, which are right now in pipeline in the planning stage. So you won't be coming in the unwanted competitions. So this is the might to say on this, and so look for long term and adopt more towards the technologies and transparency with your investors. So that will give more comfort level to your investors.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vinamra, I'm going to come to you as the CEO for CapitaLand. Obviously, you have a global footprint. Your focus is obviously India. What do you see are the fundamental changes the way you would operate and manage parks going forward? Because you obviously have a large portfolio of parks across India in the current COVID situation and going forward.
Thanks, Ram. I think for a lot of institutional players and the large developers of commercial spaces, a lot of these changes had already begun post-COVID. So COVID is, in my view, going to accelerate a lot of these changes. And I would categorize these changes in three segments. First is digitalization. Mr. Khaitan alluded to it towards the end of his statement as well. I think a lot of PropTech solutions will increasingly find more use cases, will increasingly find the right business model that they could work for. It could be, about apps being used to operate your lifts. It could be facial recognition-based access control system. It could be drone-based surveillance systems. I mean, the use cases are many. And COVID is going to accelerate all of that. And not just accelerate the users, but I think also the business models in which this could make sense. The second push, which we are also doing, I think is going to happen, is on sustainability and wellness. Again, so, both of these are areas which have already gained a lot of traction in the big developers. I think now that's going to accelerate and going to have even mid-tier developers pay extreme importance to that, because occupiers will continue to treat health and safety of all park employees and visitors as the most important aspect. So the push for making the parks and the buildings much safer, whether it is, for example, how your AHUs are designed and how they are eradicating germs, or how handrails are killing are protected to kill microbes in escalators in the malls, and so on and so forth. So right from the way projects are designed to the way they are operated, focus on wellness, I think will take much more traction, and rightly so. So probably how a green building was, maybe 10 years ago a novelty, and now today it's a must. I think a well building is going to have that journey probably compressed by maybe 5 years. Right? And very soon we may see every building probably needing to be a well building. And the third aspect is really more on the software aspect of customer engagement and customer service. I mean, in times of crisis like these and even beyond, the way developers communicate and engage their customers and give confidence to them will be paramount. Again, the big developers were already focused on that, and I think even the mid-tier developers will strengthen how they're performing on these aspects. So I would say these are the three areas which, as an operator of parks, my sense is that things are going to be under much more focus in the post-COVID world.
Thanks, Vinamra. Vinod, obviously, you obviously have a lot of large parks across India, and Hyderabad Mindspace has been one of the early parks that's been really successful over the years. What are some of the measures you're implementing in these times from a policy perspective? Because you also have new developments coming your way in the Hyderabad market and other markets across India. And what are you doing to stay ahead of the game with the quantum of supply really coming up in Hyderabad? Obviously, there's a lot of discussion on de-densification, and NBFC has had the norms of utilizing 1 to 100 square feet. What are you doing in terms of staying ahead of the game?
So primarily what's important to note here is, just like what Vinamra said, all of us will change the game in terms of health and safety protocols. What you must remember is that these are high-end tech spaces now with a footprint of very formidable occupiers. No longer is India a back office destination or a startup destination where you don't see the future beyond 3 years. Clients are spending upwards of $80 a square foot in interiors. So they're there for a far more longer term perspective, and India has shown its resilience in terms of deliverables, whether it's work from home or otherwise, and demonstrated to the world that in worst times we've been able to deliver. So if you track the export numbers, and we're tracking that for every of our customers, they have met between 90 and 100% for the current quarter, equivalent to last quarter, same quarter last year. So when you look at that, you know revenues are coming in and they have delivered. Now, coming to that, fortunately for us in the Hyderabad park, our densities are just about 2 times the land area. So when you look at 110 acres and you just built 11 million square feet on that, you have a far bigger elbow room of space available to you, whether it's walkways, pathways, sanitization corridors, interior areas, whether it is screening protocols or healthcare protocols or sanitization protocols or touchless protocols or technology interfaces, everything is getting implemented as we speak. Just like what Vinamra mentioned, whether it's air conditioning systems, name it, that protocol is being actually implemented. See, what's important right now is to bring back the element of safety at your workplace. Remember that 80% of these employees are millennials. They've all migrated and come to cities like Hyderabad and Bangalore and Pune, right? They're living out of a small accommodation, trying to make a dream job for themselves in these big cities with great social infrastructure. They are used to spending 15 hours a day at their workplace, right from a nice coffee to feeding them breakfast, lunch, and dinner, to make sure there is social networking, collaboration, energy, all of the other exciting stuff that's going on at the workplace. You have a fancy Herman Miller chair, a great desk to sit on, 2 large screens to work upon, nice air conditioning spaces. You're not going to get all of that at your house. So health and safety protocols, the minute you leave your door, are just not there in those old societies or buildings to the level at which we can implement them. It's about bringing them from the home to the workplace. The minute they reach the workplace, they realize that this is far more safer a place, and they're actually desperate to come back to work. But just like how employers are very, very scared, you don't want litigations hitting your way. Your global clients want health and safety protocols. So they're deferring the incoming of employees beyond 10 and 15%. So you will see that take some time. Second part of your question, primarily of density. So yes, in the short term, navigating pretty much not knowing where exactly you're going to land out. Whether it is a combination of no hot desking, no variable desking, 120 square foot of person requirement, maybe 10-15% variable, which works from home. Because if you want to reach COVID protocols today, not more than 35% of your people can be in the office at the same time. So till you figure that out and you find out staggered timings or you find out staggered vertical transportation systems, there are a whole lot of things we are working on closely with our clients. So in the new normal, a combination of all of these things will happen. You may have a higher density where you've seen Hong Kong, you may see China, you're seeing Singapore. All of these guys, 80% of Hong Kong and China is back to work and their densities are far higher. So if they've figured out a protocol, we will figure out a protocol. So what's important is to make sure you're completely engaged with your customers and you'll be able to deliver that. We're already working on the larger density parks where we've worked on, for example, you may break out your elevator banks completely and then you break them from layer 1 of basement, layer 1 of the ground floor, layer 1 of first floor. And you divide the population to 25% in each of these floors entering, and there are defined dedicated elevators only for that floor. So by default, you've staggered out the entire population. Instead of coming into one lobby is going into 4 lobbies. In any case, they would have taken different elevators. So you redesign your destination control systems and you can spread them out without having to take too much stress. You would stretch it out by 30 minutes or 45 minutes more in terms of in time, but you can accommodate 80% of the population. So we've actually done simulations. We're ready with all of that. So the minute the client densities move in, we will have solutions around that. So I don't see that as a challenge. Nobody knows the new normal. You might just bend the curve. We might all get immunized. We might have a treatment. And the minute you remove the fear out of the equation, you sorted things out. But we still have to navigate 3-6 months around this while we know the new normal. So till then, I think we have to work really closely to make sure we get people back to work and they have to feel safe at work. That's the key.
Great point, Vinod. Thank you. Colonel Raman, I'm going to come back to you as from an occupier's perspective. What's your feedback on de-densification and some of the measures that the occupier community, and as a representative from the occupier community on this panel, can you share your light on what are your expectations from an industry on de-densification? And obviously, Vinod made a great point on splitting up the elevator bank, on how you spread the employees on different, who will go into different floors, from creating those destination controlled elevators, etc. What's your take on de-densification? You also made a very valid point on remote working and a hub and spoke to some effect, where you expect your developer partners to look at that opportunity. So from a de-densification perspective, and keeping in mind going forward with people coming back to work, what's your strategy?
Yeah, thanks, Ram. I think there are 2 aspects to de-densification. One is internal within the office space, and one is external part. Internal, I think Vinod has already alluded to it. From a builder's perspective, there is a lot which they are trying to do, like the way he spoke about lifts and things like that. Internally, the organizations are already planning their strategy. As he said, there are few organizations which are looking at 30%, only from a risk mitigation perspective. Let's say they have 1,000-seater. They are not planning, with the kind of social distancing requirement, de-densification, they can, depending on an organization's appetite, it could be anything between 50 to 80%. They can bring it, I'm talking about complete, when whatever that new normal is, right? So if that be so, what happens to the delta of 50 to 20%, which gets left out? As of now, the plans are to push it from work from home, right? But whoever, even if they bring that strength from 50 to 80%, what they are trying to do is they are trying to box them in different spaces, right? And the way he said, assign spaces internally, I don't want to again repeat the same thing, but they are trying to have different spaces, that in case there is any contact tracing, God forbid, we do not lose the entire workforce. And everyone has made a good point, and I would like to reiterate one thing. I think we both builders and as well as occupiers, we as employers, have to instill confidence in our employees that they can come back to work. That's the biggest challenge today any organization will have. It's not only any organization. Till such time they do not have that confidence, coming back would be a big challenge for them. And to do that, and the way Vinamra and Vinod spoke about, we are getting, builders are doing the bit, we are also doing our bit. And from an external perspective, de-densification, I spoke about that model about a hub and spoke. And I forgot to mention that when we speak about hub and spoke is, again, we don't know pandemic, it's going to be 6 months, as Vinod alluded to it, or it could be 1 year or maybe 2 years. I only hope not 2 years. I hope we get rid of this soon. But till such time, I think, the builders also need to come in, chip in here by giving flexible options of lock-in periods. It cannot be 3-5 years and things like that, right? So these lock-in periods could be much more flexible so that the organization spread out, and whenever they're comfortable, they bring them back. I think these are few things which collectively probably we as occupiers and builders can do to instill confidence in people coming back to work. And of course, or rather, I wouldn't say back to work, it is back to office. They're already working at home. So it's better to call them back to office. And of course, social distancing, as I said, internally, there are a lot of organizations doing many things.
Thank you, Colonel Raman. Vinamra, I'm going to come back to you. Obviously, well-funded projects across the world, and especially in India, with the labor migration obviously being a challenge right now. Do you expect any change in technology and strategy on what you will build going forward, and the way you'll build going forward? From a technology perspective, keeping in mind labor being a big concern in the immediate to short term.
Yeah, you're right, Ram, that labor is a concern for all developers. Just when we were about to see the reverse migration of labor starting to come back from the villages to the cities, for example, what's happening in Bangalore recently with sort of another fear and spike, you're again starting to see labor kind of try to go back again. So a lot of knee-jerk reactions. And look, I don't blame them as well. Everybody, wants to keep safety paramount. So it is quite certain that there will be uncertain periods of labor strength going up and down over the next 4 to 6 months. I think that is quite clear, and all of us are preparing for it. Now, in terms of the projects, the stance that we have taken and what we are seeing also industry-wide is that the projects that are under construction, that are well capitalized, well funded in areas of the city where the inherent demand supply dynamics are strong, are going to continue. And that stance we have also taken across all our cities as well. Of course, there could be some calibration needed to make sure that when your supply is ready, when you get your occupancy certificates, you are not caught in the middle of an oversupply. But I think by and large, because capital will be a constraint, there will be a significant dropout of the project that may not be able to continue at the same pace. So I do believe that with that, some sort of supply should taper off, providing projects that are going ahead full steam in a structured manner, a lot of breathing space when they come on board. As far as technology is concerned, already things like using steel structures, for example, or things like using precast in certain cases, especially where there are pre-leases and your ability to get the building out in time is very critical, were in place. And the extra cost that developers had to incur to use these technologies were being compensated by a shortened time period in which you can get your building out on. So my sense is that there will have to be a cost benefit analysis again done certain projects you may want to fast track on purpose to make sure you catch the supply at the right time, and therein you may want to invest in certain technologies. Certain times you may not want to do it. So I don't think it's going to be one size fit for all, but construction technologies will get used differently depending on the business requirement and dynamics around it. The other advent of technology will happen in the construction sites is again pertaining to health and safety. We are already working with the top 4 or 5 main contractors in the country, and we can already see how technology savvy all of them have been to ensure things like social distancing, which in a construction project in India, you've got 600 laborers in a building, is not that easy to do. But innovative mechanisms are being used to do that. I mean, I get so pleasantly surprised when my contractors show me high-tech apps that they are using to track how their workers are kind of moving around in the construction sites and how they're starting to use drones even. And I think all of that are indicators of how construction going forward may change to a larger extent in an industry which otherwise has been notoriously slow to respond to technology. So that's how I would summarize the impact on construction. Yeah.
Thanks, Vinamra. Mahesh, coming back to you, obviously you've already started building a steel structured building. This was obviously planned and started last year. And Vinamra made a great point on from a technology enhancements, keeping in mind labor. But coming to what Raman mentioned also, from an occupier's perspective, as a leading developer in Hyderabad with a large portfolio, how do you think you'll be able to bring in the agility offering from your perspective?
Well, interesting. First, Ram, you have to keep in your mind, customer is always right. So occupier is, we have to give first priority to occupiers. So as Raman said, we expecting basically to how we can bring down the lock-in, and you say you should have a flexibility system is in place. So I do agree with Raman actually. That's always developers should be flexible always with their customers. And as Vinamra mentioned, Vinod mentioned, health and safety has become today is a part of life. It's not only for COVID time. It helps to keep going on now. As our PM Modi ji couldn't do last 5 years, COVID did in 3 months. So that's we should kind of, thanks to the kind of COVID also, that the kind of health and wellness they bring within the 3 months of time. As long as occupiers are concerned, definitely they have at this time, during COVID time, we keep hearing from a lot of kind of customers how they can support to them as this tough time together. Some of coming up, how we can kind of, for cash flow point of view, how we can support them. Some of expecting basically as Raman said, how we can just give the lock-in kind of period, whatever we have with them, how we can support them. So many of the customers, they are coming up different requirements. Some of customers are coming up deferment of the rentals to maintain their cash flow. Some of coming, how we can support that during this time, as they are not occupying the premises, how they can bring down their cost for maintenance. So developer and occupier has to work as a team together. They have to marry together. So otherwise, things, both of them won't be able to sustain. So you have to support to occupier, and occupier has to work with you. So this is a kind of suggestion, and some of customers has come, as Raman said, rental reductions. So I do agree with Raman, but what is the developer prospect point of view, when you see that most of money goes to the banks only. So that might be some challenge for the developers. But many of the area where the kind of developer can support, they have to work together. As Vinamra said, and Vinod said, where more than 3-digit rents are there definitely the things can be worked out. But our Hyderabad's always been less than $1. So, and as you know now, the kind of product which are coming up in Hyderabad now is always a world-class standard. And everybody are in the line of that, how to maintain that quality now. So kind of rent reduction of the rentals might be some challenge for the developer prospect point of view. But I would say that whatever the some of occupier request comes, like a deferment of rentals, or like kind of how they can reduce their cost, as well as like how we can give them kind of assurance to that when their associate enter in that kind of your park till he goes back, how we can make them ensure that they are safe. So we have to take care of from once he enter in our gate, start with the kind of the entry of the associate, how they we can sanitizing the cars, as well as already everybody mentioned about the lift. So these are the things which you have to make sure that associates, they should feel safer than their home. This is a kind of assurance we had to give the occupiers. So in that case, I don't think like as kind of corporates will have any issue to bring back that to their offices. Already they're working it, but we have to bring them back to the offices. This is my say on this.
Thanks, Mahesh. Anuj, coming to you, obviously Vinamra briefly touched about it, that there could be a marginal slowdown on developers who don't necessarily have the funding. Do you see an opportunity for consolidation, M&A, and maybe even insolvency in some cases? What's your take on that situation going forward?
Yeah, so my understanding of the Hyderabad market is I don't see much of a insolvency thing coming up, primarily because if you see overall, the city had a very good run. Most of the developers, whatever they had built, they could lease in the last 4 years substantially. Even I see the pipeline out of the whatever 35-40 million we keep talking about, which kind of came in or expected to come by end of this year or early next year, is largely pre-committed. The challenge where I see is, mostly the supply which was projected beyond 2021, and that is something which will automatically get adjusted, I believe, because of the market forces now. But if traditionally also, if you see, the market is locally is largely led and substantially catered by the big platform players. Some of them are already represented in this panel with Mahesh ji, Vinod, and Vinamra. All of them, are very substantially, very well balanced, big balance sheets. So I don't see much of a challenge on that front. Where I see a bit of a challenge is there are a few mid-sized developers who, because of the hype in the market, they kind of went. They started project, or they were planning to start project, which were beyond their financial bandwidth and appetite. I see some of those projects might see some stress, and that could possibly be could lead to opportunities of project buyouts and project takeovers. So I see that could be a little bit of possibility. Another change what I'm seeing over, especially in the last 1 month or so, a lot of our clients locally, we are seeing they're calling us now, and they were not very open for collaborations and partnerships earlier, are now ready to explore options. And that clearly shows that, they also realize the challenges going forward could be either in form of funding, doing the financial closure of the projects, or the bigger challenge could be in terms of leasing. And there I see some of these mid-sized players definitely have challenges, because, at least from an occupier's point of view, one trend which I see is that when it comes to the category B players, is unless the building is ready, I don't think so any large occupier likes to commit, leasing with them. So to that extent, I see some activity of consolidation definitely coming over the next few months, or it could also lead to some opportunities for kind of forward purchase by some of the larger REIT platforms or the developers or platforms who are not yet entered Hyderabad because of whatever issues. I see some of that activity happening in the next few months.
Thank you. Totally agree with you. Vinod, coming back to you. Obviously, we've seen majority of the growth predominantly in the in the western part of the city. No doubt you do have a park on the eastern side. Raman did touch upon hub and spoke. Do you expect other corridors to open up more from a near to home operation perspective in the immediate to short term? And what would you share from a Hyderabad perspective?
So it's interesting you asked this question, and certainly like Raman mentioned, these must be strategies that are being discussed currently with a lot of clients in a lot of their conference rooms and Zoom discussions. So what's happening, fortunately for us, we have a footprint pretty much in 4 out of the 6 large cities. We've got built incubators of between 50 and 100,000 square feet, fully furnished, available. In fact, we are building currently as we speak another 200,000 square feet of COVID-ready incubation centers, which have all the norms that you want to follow from a post-COVID de-densification environment. And a lot of our clients, for example, in Bombay are now saying we will decongest from the CBD until this thing sorts out. Can we use your incubator offices in the suburbs where residential catchments are? So that strategy, if it pans out, fortunately, developers like us will find a solution for you guys really quickly. So I don't see that as a challenge, but it has to emerge out of client strategies to say, how much do you want to distribute yourself out? Do you want to spread out in 3 or 4 different locations? See, what happens is, you must remember, while hub and spoke is a nice thing to speak about, every client, if he starts thinking and says, okay, I'm going to go into the suburb, suddenly you will need 10 million square feet and 20 million square feet in each of those suburbs. You don't have that supply. You won't have human capital available. You'll have attrition issues. So you'll have other issues. While one client may use it for the temporary, but if all clients think the same way and they all go into those suburb pockets, you'll have a challenge that they will become the next Madhapurs in any case. For a developer, we are very happy because we'll make 4 SBDs in every city, and that much more growth will come. So it'll automatically de-densify and you'll spread yourself out. So which is, as a developer, we will grab that opportunity. And in the current scenario, we can offer it as well.
No, great point. Truly, these strategies are being evolving as we discuss with a lot of occupier clients on commute strategies, location strategies going forward. No doubt, while we're talking of work from home, eventually we'll talk about work from anywhere. And that's bound to happen over the years, no doubt. Colonel Raman, coming back to you, from an occupier's perspective, obviously we've seen pretty much the concentration in the western part of the city, and similar to what Vinod mentioned, that as a developer, he has possibly 4 locations around Hyderabad. What's your take on that from an occupier community perspective? And obviously the eastern part of the city, there's some great development out there, ready to be leased. And you have a large workforce from Hyderabad coming in from the eastern part of the city. And the government also is providing incentives from getting companies to look at the east. The Look East policy was an initiative by the government. What's your take on alternatives?
That's a great question, Ram. I think I attended a small study. I was part of the study, I would say, which we undertook almost a year back about the same issue. Now, let's analyze as to why the western part of the city got concentrated. Now, the reason why it got concentrated is, of course, it started off with the high-tech city, and it started spreading. And if you see today also, almost 90% is still in the western sector, right? Part of the city. Now, the main reason for this is the unlimited FSI, right? The developers do not want to move out, obviously, because they are having FSIs unlimited, and the organizations also are comfortable trying to hook onto this particular place because there is no other option. Now, the second option, as an occupier, if you ask me why aren't occupiers trying to look east? I was part of that Look East policy study also. The biggest issue is it's not only the commercial space. Before that, I would like to come to another point. If you really look at Hyderabad as to where are the locations which potentially can be can grow other than the Western in case there is an alternative. It has to be based on two aspects here. One is your metro connectivity, and second is your ring road, the outer ring road, right? The metro connectivity line, if you see, the Madhapur Uppal sector, that's Nagol sector, already you have an Eastern Look East policy corridor there. Falaknuma sector, that line, I don't think it has any potential, right? The third is the LB Nagar, again, there is no potential much. Then comes along the ring road. The government tried to sell Rajendra Nagar as one of the places, which is actually equidistance between West and the Shamshabad. Again, it's part of, I would say, West itself. So having said that, it was very interesting in the study when we started surveying these millennials. They said, look, if there is an organization which allows me, and let me tell you, it's not from me, it came from millennials, their outlook. What they said, if there is an organization which has an Eastern sector and I have an offer from the West, I would love to go here rather than there. We asked the reason. They say that there is no local infrastructure. It is entire ecosystem which has to work to come up. Unfortunately, there is no ecosystem. I'll give you an example. There's not a single mall if you cross Panjagutta towards Secunderabad side, right? There are no good theaters. No, these millennials are looking for that. They're looking at bars. They're looking at, weekend getaways. They say that I still have to travel all the way to the West during weekends where, typically I believe the guys in Madhapur city or high-tech city, they look down upon them. Oh, you guys are sitting there. So the ecosystem has to come up. And even though government is really encouraging people, I don't want to mention the kind of, the incentives they are giving and things like that. I think the ecosystem has to come up. That is when things will move on. And the biggest thing is, in case the FSI is capped, that is when probably automatically the ecosystem is going to come up in the areas which I mentioned.
Ram, we have one density, large campuses, ground 1 and 2 floor, 5 million square feet, 2 million square feet, over 200 acres in east, west, south, wherever you want.
I know, Vinod. I'm familiar with that. Coming back to you, Vinamra.
Built and incubated.
Thank you for sharing that. Vinamra, coming back to you. Obviously, CapitaLand has a REIT in Singapore. You probably will look at a REIT going forward. What's your take from a REIT perspective, keeping the current situation in the immediate to short term?
You're right, Ram. We had the first REIT in Asia Pacific, which was purely investing in India back in 2007. And since then, it owns 75-80% of our entire portfolio in the country. I think once REIT became a reality in India with the first one and now a few others in the pipeline, it's an excellent opportunity for the industry to mature and become far more transparent, right? One, of course, for the retail investors, it provides an excellent opportunity to partake in the entire growth story of commercial real estate in India, which has so far been absent. And that has been a hallmark of most countries where this is a very common investment tool for retail investors, right from Singapore to Australia to Hong Kong to the West, US and Canada, right? So while India has been late to the party, but better late than never, right? So fundamentally, I do think that there's a great opportunity that lies there. Apart from that, the obvious benefits of the fact that the industry becomes much more transparent, it gets much better analyst coverage. It actually focuses a lot on improving quality of the buildings, and just the fact that there is now an exit vehicle for a lot of developments provides fantastic liquidity to the market in the future as well. So a lot of benefits, right? The aspects that, in my view, will determine over the next 2 to 3 years how this picks up are a couple of things. One, of course, is the ability to have the right size and quality of the portfolio. REITs need a minimum size to be able to be effective, right? In a market like Singapore, it's $1 billion, right? And I think not many developers and portfolios yet in the currently may be able to garner that size. Few can, and they're already working on those opportunities. And as the graded developers keep building more over the next 2 to 3 years, the portfolios keep getting expanded, and the possibilities of having those risks will be higher. The second aspect will be eventually, as the REIT market matures, diversifying away only from a commercial REIT. REITs typically are looked by investors purely from a risk return perspective, right? So a commercial has a different risk return profile, a data center will have a different one, or a retail will have a different one. Mature REIT markets have REITs for each of these classes. India is starting in. So I will not be surprised as the Indian market matures and expands, there could be opportunities for a REIT dedicated to a retail platform apart from an office. And then maybe, 4 or 5 years down the line, even something like a data center with the pace at which those investments are growing. So I think that diversification, apart from commercial REITs continuing to expand, will also be very interesting to watch out for. In the short run, because of the way the pandemic is playing out and the pressures that it is putting on rentals and rental yields, I think that will be another factor which developers will have heavy on their mind when they decide on the timing of their REITs as well. You want it to be priced most effectively when you are hitting the public market. You want to make sure that the rental yields are placed accordingly in the market. You want to make sure there is good scope of further capital appreciation and cap rate compression. So I think all these will be the factors that will determine. My sense is that developers who are confident about the underlying strength of their portfolios will continue to march towards listing the new REITs, whereas some of the other ones may want to wait and watch. Just like how the first REIT took time because everybody was waiting and watching, I think the second, third, fourth may also grow gradually with this wait and watch approach. But in the long run, I see great potential for that. Yeah.
Thank you, Vinamra. Absolutely right. Vinod, coming back to you, and I think we're reached the hour, so this would probably be the last question, or maybe I'll go back to Raman for one more last question from an occupier's perspective. Where do you see Hyderabad going forward, Vinod? Obviously, the focus has been the West. We're seeing growth towards Shamshabad. We will see the East grow at some place, at some stage with social infrastructure, as Raman mentioned. Despite having a metro, the social infrastructure aspect is there. And obviously, integrated developments with a component of office, retail, residential could be the new normal going forward, where it has a combination of all the asset classes where it's walk to work effectively. If you remember the mantra 10 years ago that everyone was talking about. Where do you see Hyderabad going forward, Vinod, from your perspective?
See, let's step back a quarter when there was no COVID. What made Hyderabad work? It was primarily, like we discussed earlier, it's about attracting top talent. And today talent can float around to any city with a resume online, figure out where they want to live, catch up on their social networking and friends and say, okay, this is where I want to go and set my job up. They are very, very agile when it comes to deciding where to go. The reason Hyderabad has grown tremendously is purely because of all of these things, where there was comfort, there was critical mass, cost of living was cheaper, great jobs were coming through, infrastructure was available, social fabric was great. And as young kids, this is perfect for you to start off. So that is not going away anywhere. The minute stability and blue sky returns back, you will see Hyderabad again start to bounce back in terms of the demand that it has generated for itself because of the attractive infrastructure and the critical mass around it. If you see why Hyderabad really done well is really infrastructure that the government has contributed, and the sheer residential catchment density that we've seen that city produce is phenomenal. The only other city I have seen produce residential to that density has been Pune. So which is why you have seen this kind of volume of attractive demand, because talent is willing to come and stay. They're getting a home easily, and that's how you're filling up your offices. And that's why clients are willing to set up shop. So that I don't think is going away anywhere. Moving to work from home and close by to home and this and that and the other, same logic will apply. If you are in Madhapur, your affordability may not be, you'll have to be half an hour and 45 minutes away to be affordable. So your 80% of your population may not be able to afford those kind of rents and they will have to move out. The minute we start moving out, the social infra has to move out. If social infra moves out, cost of real estate and residential will go up in those markets. Again, those guys will have to move further out. So the solution is mass rapid transport systems and obviously faster connectivity. And in a post-COVID world, how you want to sanitize that transportation is really key to bring back people to the workspace. The minute that piece is sorted out, we are sorted out, because we have to learn from China and we have to learn from Hong Kong how they've been able to get that, because the metros are buzzing, the public transport is buzzing, and those guys are back. So we have to take a lot of learnings from there as utility service companies, etc. And that's where the gap is today. Developers will do their thing, employers will do their thing, but to migrate you from your house to the workspace, that's where the patch needs to be filled up on. And I think we'll be over this.
Thanks, Vinod, for sharing your perspective. Colonel Raman, coming back to you, from an occupier's perspective, do you want to share your views on obviously integrated developments going forward? We spoke about near to home, hub and spoke, but what's your take on the long term for Hyderabad from an occupier's perspective?
Thanks, Ram. I think I completely agree with Vinod. But long term, there is a great scope for Hyderabad, the way it was pre-COVID. I take it that it's just a small little gap which has come up. And when I say small is, honestly, I told earlier, 2020 is gone, right? So it's another maybe 6 to 8 months thereafter, or at best another year, where we find out solutions. We are actually already on top of it. We are finding solutions like the way Vinamra, Vinod, everyone is talking about. So we have found solutions. It's just that when we get our employees back to work. But otherwise, all the advantages which were existing pre-COVID has not gone off. I'll give you an example from an infrastructure perspective. Hyderabad is the only city which I got to know that during this lockdown of almost 90 days, the entire local infrastructure was, the GHMC took up the works and they accelerated these works. They utilize this. So what I'm trying to say is the government is also doing a lot to develop the infrastructure, and they are, of course, there are things which they can do better. But definitely, as Anuj was also saying, they listen to the industry. They're pretty receptive to our requirements. Of course, they may not meet all our requirements, but at least they're receptive. And I can tell and I'm sure you might be aware, you are looking at all India, right? So that way Hyderabad is much better, low cost, affordability, rentals, commercial rentals, residential, everything is great. And the biggest USP is the outer ring road for Hyderabad.
Great, thank you for summing up that view.
So Ram, if I just take a second, just to add to what Vinod was highlighting about the Hyderabad and how the residential catches up very quickly here. We recently did a study, I'm sharing some statistics which might surprise you. We mapped out all the projects which got approved, residential projects which got approved between 2017 till March of 2020. And while we were talking about some 35-40 million square feet of office supply came in, the projects which are approved by RERA Hyderabad are to the tune of about 170 million square feet for residential, which translate to almost about 95,000 units. So numbers looks very big, but if you divide it over the period in which it will get delivered, it almost comes to about 18,000 units a year. And our general absorption from last 2 years have been much more than that. So I think, the pace at which the commercial and residential is coming up is also very aligned.
True. Very true, Anuj. I have those figures from our consulting and research team, so pretty clued on to the numbers. from a residential perspective. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Great. I think we've had a great session. To sum it up, from an occupier perspective, the partnership and the relationship between the developers and the occupiers is a key going forward. Hub and spoke could turn in the immediate to short term, could be a possibility going forward. The developers are willing to support their occupiers, as Mahesh mentioned. Employee health and safety is a big concern, and the developers are investing in modifying their solutions in the buildings and office parks to ensure that the employees, as and when they come back to work, are safe and healthy. Changing technology, obviously a lot happening there. Vinamra, you touched upon it. Obviously the REITs are something that we will continue to look and are positive from an overall perspective. Look east, we spoke about east. Obviously the social infrastructure has to really catch up for that micro location to pick up. And from an overall investment perspective, we could see some consolidations of developers looking at larger developers and private equity funds looking at taking over some of the projects going forward. So some great, interesting conversations, and thank you all for your feedback. I truly believe that the workplace will become smarter, no doubt about it. Occupiers and developers will enhance automation and technology going forward. Safety measures will be looked at, and the return to work policies will be obviously looked at dramatically for every occupier. And remote working policies will obviously be enhanced going forward. Sufficient, effective surveillance and the investment in technology will really be the game changer going forward. So thank you all for a wonderful session. Swapna, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Ram. I think we got some really speakers. I would also now like to bring in Mr. Arun Manikya, who's the Senior Vice President for Schindler for South Region. Arun, yeah, are you there? So Arun, if you would like to go ahead with, you have been listening to the discussion. Any questions do you have? If you would like to bring that.
Good evening, everyone. The March 22nd is one of the time wherein the lockdown was imposed on India, and that was the time a company like Schindler, having an advanced technology, people who are already into the artificial intelligence, has actually helped in terms of ensuring that every employee works from the 23rd of March itself. This actually helped us in terms of being ahead in the market and reach out to most of the customers, which we wanted. Today, the panelists, each one of you having a great knowledge about the construction industry, have spoken lot about the development of urban infrastructure. Basically, Mr. Anuj spoke about lot about the development of urban infrastructure, the lot of good process that we have in terms of the approval processes, and also the government, whatever is the help which is being given in terms of the relaxation. Similarly, each one of you, Mr. Venkata, Raman, has spoke about the the time that we have lost in 2020, and whatever is the biggest risk factor, the fear factor, and how we can keep our customers happy. What are the effects of the rentals? Such things were also very well discussed. Mr. Mahesh Khaitan, who's a legend in the construction industry, who always advised us a lot about not being panicky and not to talk, not to be in the race in terms of the construction this year, to have calm and look at the long-term goals. Very well said, Mahesh ji.
Mr. Arun, you have a question for Mr. Khaitan? Any question you would like to ask?
Yeah. So before I could go to my question, I think Mr. Vinamra was the one who spoke a lot about the technological things. So first, let me start with Mr. Vinamra Srivastava. You have been doing a lot of projects in India. For a long time, the construction industry, we were also talking about the work, dine, shop, and live was the concept which we used to talk about. for a very long time. Year on year, one of the other things which are being imposed on the real estate. Now, with the COVID, do you think the movement factor, the traffic factor, the COVID factor is going to enhance, is going to develop such projects further, or is there anything else, the new technology or the new concepts which are likely to come up with real estate?
Thanks, Arun. I'll keep this short. I think Vinod alluded to it earlier as well. I don't think this is a function of just COVID. The whole work-live play environment, which basically means creating mixed-use developments where you walk to work and walk to play and walk to school, etc., was a trend which was starting to take traction slowly. But I think going forward, while the merits of that are obvious and it is a win-win for everybody, but the practical challenges of implementing it was also very well highlighted earlier by some other panelists as well, where the ecosystem just outside these mixed-use developments has to come up significantly as well. Singapore is a fantastic example. If you see how Singapore is structured across the island, you've got these mini pockets of communities which are self-sufficient. So for anything, right, from entertainment to education to healthcare, you don't have to go beyond 4 kilometers. Now, India is, of course, a different structure, but if every city in India could think of their development in similar manners, then instead of the haphazard growth that we have now with concentric circles in each city just keep on getting expanded, that's where I think the mixed-use development will have the best use case. So it will be a function of how the private and the public sector collaborates, because the private sector can focus a lot on creating those mixed-use developments, but the public sector will have to take the lead to create those communities outside those parks. If that happens, then I definitely see this expanding, because ultimately it benefits everybody. It benefits the occupiers and it benefits the developers. But this synergy between the two sectors will have to happen for it to really accelerate going forward. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
In fact, Vinamra, you spoke about synergy. We have a question from one of the audience, Mr. Khaitan. I would like you to take that, where he's saying developers, instead of being just part of the supply chain, probably they should partner in the growth strategy for the benefit of the user industries in terms of giving inputs on the use of space and other alternatives. This is from one of the retired IAS officers. So, Mr. Khaitan, what do you have to say? How developers can be part of the growth strategy? Mr. Khaitan, you are on mute.
Can you repeat your question, Satna?
Yeah, the question one of our viewers has asked is that developers, instead of being just part of a supply chain, how can they be part of the growth strategy for user industries by giving their inputs on use of spaces and other alternatives?
Yeah, it's a good question from the whoever's asked me this question.
Yeah,
definitely the developer has to be kind of from the kind of perspective for the as a part of infrastructure itself, as and in between that, Mr. Raman also said developers should have the kind of flexibility for every point of view. So, and we are also agree on same page. We should be kind of for the each and every area, we should be part of the infrastructure also. And we are into that now. We are slowly we are getting basically to involving in the government partnership also. As you say that we are coming up in the Hyderabad itself to create the ecosystem of the one of the project called Image Tower, where in the knowledge city, by the side of the knowledge city, in a high-tech city with all kind of digital marketing and kind of new technology systems companies, upcoming startup companies and all. For them, we are creating basically to infrastructure in the high-tech city. So we are already being a part of the government. So we are already in that.
So there are developers who are, not just being a supplier of space, but they are also working with other organizations. That's great. Another very interesting question: is there a concern of oversupply of office spaces in Hyderabad? Vinod and Anuj, if you can, Vinod, if you would like to answer this first.
Okay, so see, macro levels of supply, definitely because of densities going up in Hyderabad, the supply curve has been pushed out. Having said that, you need to start differentiating the quality of assets. Now, quality of assets earlier would be categorized as grade A, just looking at a nice brochure with a nice glass facade. After COVID, you will look at grade A very, very differently. You will look at the credibility of the developer. You will look at his experience. What has he delivered? What assets is he managing? How is he handling relationships? How about protocol? How about governance? How about health and safety? Only then will you shortlist your preference for grading. The challenge you will see is because of compression of capital not available. No speculative capital is available. Because you're creating volumes like 2 million and 3 million square feet at a time, you can't leave buildings half complete and ask tenants to start occupying. No tenants will walk in till you have construction labor completely gone out of your sites. For that, you have to complete the 3.5 million or 3 million square feet. If you don't have customers signed up, you won't complete the building. So it's chicken and egg. While you will see the supply tangible, visible to you halfway in the sky, it's not going to get completed. My view is supply is going to be dramatically constricted. It's going to be pushed out by 2 to 3 years. Only when demand hits back, which like Mr. Raman mentioned, you can forget about 2020 for any significant demand footprint. So nobody is going to pour concrete aggressively, except for guys who are very clear, who want to bring in speculative, careful supply. So if someone wants to put 5 million, he'll bring in 1 million.
Mm-hmm.
So I can tell you supply is just going to evaporate. It's not going to come back till 23 and 24. Once the demand comes back, you will see supply start back. And that's why while you may have on paper supply, you're not going to get real supply where a client like Mr. Raman would like to go and occupy.
Correct. So like in many other...
Sapna, to answer that question, as Anuj mentioned, if you look at the number of projects that are approved in Hyderabad from a residential perspective, similarly on the commercial side, you do have a lot of projects approved. And as Vinod mentioned, the scale and size of each building has dramatically gone up because of the unlimited FAR available. Obviously, projects that have the funding will finish the projects. Some will sell strata. And then it's the occupiers who will evaluate the building in terms of grading, what infrastructure has been put going forward. But no doubt, we've seen a lot of focus on Hyderabad in the last few years. Apart from local developers changing their game in the last few years, we've seen a lot of interest from international developers and developers from outside of Hyderabad who are not local to Hyderabad, who've changed the game for Hyderabad. No doubt there is a lot of planned supply. Obviously, the pace of that supply will obviously change going forward. No doubt about it.
So it's not just the supply, but the quality of supply.
Yes, absolutely.
Say.
There will be a differentiator. We grade buildings. That grading will be relooked at from a post-COVID era, as Vinod mentioned. No doubt about it.
And yes, the people who are going to occupy, they are also going to be a little more, choosy about what kind of space they want. Anuj, your thoughts on that? Very crisp thoughts.
So I completely agree with both the gentlemen. My view are the same. We are increasingly seeing a lot of local mid-sized developers who were planning these commercial spaces are looking to now completely go back and defer some of the supply. If they can phase out portion of their supply, they are considering that. Quite a few projects are were about to start, and I can clearly see that developers coming back and trying to ask the big question, should I start or should I just wait for 6 months and then start, because I don't see a visibility of a financial closure. And another reason why I see a lot of the supply which will get pushed is because at an early stage of most of these commercial projects, especially by the local developers, not the the big boys of the industry, was largely funded by the private strata sale, which is as of now completely out of the market. I see that coming back in few months from now, but currently I think those investors are totally vanished. And so I definitely agree with what Ram and Vinod said, that this supply will get pushed up by at least 2 to 3 years. And the big picture, what we were seeing, that everybody was scared about the oversupply situation in Hyderabad in 2021. I don't see that huge, oversupply situation should arise. In fact, the most of the supply which was started around 2017 and 2021 onwards, like I earlier also said, is largely pre-committed. To that extent, there is no risk any which ways. What was planned beyond this was the risky, and I think that is where the deferment is already started.
Okay, great. Arun, you have a question.
Yeah.
So one last
So
question.
I have
Yeah.
my question to Mr. Ram Chandani. Ram Chandani, I'm sure you're the one who knows the sentiments of the customer better. Today, every person who moves out of the house tries to wear the precautionary measures, tries to wear the PPE, and expect the hygienic factor everywhere. Whether he enters into a building, whether he enters into an elevator, whether he enters into an office premises, he expects everything to be with the some or the other protection kind of a thing. For example, if an elevator, it has to be a touchless. If it has to be a switches, it has to be a touchless. If it is an escalator handrail, some kind of a UV protection. Will all these things are sustainable at a long time, and is this also going to be a new normal, and if so, will it not have an impact on the cost?
No doubt, with the current pandemic, everyone is concerned. Lives are important. And you've heard Colonel Raman also say that from an employee perspective, every occupier is ensuring the safety of their employees. And that's one of the reasons why they're asking them to work from home. No doubt, whether you go out for shopping or you go buy your groceries, everyone is concerned about stepping out of their homes in some cases. People have young kids, older parents at home, or even if they're living alone, they are concerned. Even with, we've seen cases from food delivery cases where you've seen people get affected because of delivery services. So this paranoia will continue to remain, no doubt about it. And we'll have to learn from some of the countries that have already gone ahead. And we've also seen some relapses in some of the countries, no doubt about it. We're starting to see some relapses in China. India, obviously, if you look at our demographics and our population, if you look at what happened in Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu, in Andhra, Telangana, Delhi, Gurgaon, I mean, if you look at how people live, you obviously got to make sure that the living standards of people dramatically change. How people commute will change. And all the safety measures are going to be implemented. Of course, costs, in one of the earlier panel discussions, one of the developers spoke about enhanced cost in managing their buildings going up, because the measures that they're implementing and putting in place are obviously increasing cost. No doubt, for a common man, apart from wearing a mask, he is concerned saying, what else can I do? Do I wear gloves every day to work? Do I cover my hair? All of that, right? I mean, this is bound to happen till we have a solution from a vaccine perspective, no doubt about it, or a cure. The paranoia will continue to remain, but we'll have to learn from the Western world. The Western world, and even China and Singapore or in Hong Kong, we've seen people getting back to normal. Obviously, the diligence and the efficiency of sanitization has dramatically gone up. The process of sanitization has dramatically gone up. All that will have to be implemented in India. And today, will people be comfortable going into a bus? But if someone doesn't have a choice, he will have to go on a bus. He'd rather prefer to go on his own bike or his own car. Should he be stepping out and going to a mall? Of course, the malls are open up, and he will think twice on which malls to go, whether he should go to a high street or to a mall, and he will go only on a need basis. So the patterns are going to change till there's a effective solution to the pandemic. It's still very early. These are changing every day. The feedback from WHO is that the virus is contagious, airborne now, which wasn't the case a few months ago.
So great, Ram. I think what you mentioned here is that yes, costs are going to go up, but people are ready for that because health and safety comes first. and there are some learnings that we can take. In fact, we also did a very interesting poll while the discussion was on, and like all our speakers have mentioned, a lot of our viewers also agree that because of work from home and all, rentals will go down. So 68% are of the view that rentals for office spaces might go down, and they also 90% in fact they say that yes, going forward developers will have to offer more customization for the occupiers. So that's a big number here. And in fact, a lot of our viewers, almost 71%, say that in a year the commercial real estate will recover. So that's a positive note that we are getting from our viewers. And in fact, I just got from my events team at Facebook, we have more than 5,000 viewers right now when we are concluding the session. So that shows, how interesting our discussion has been. And it's all because of the speakers that we have today. Thanks, Ram, for that wonderful moderation and asking the right questions to our speakers here. Mr. Khaitan, thank you so much for joining here, and sharing your views. Mr. Rohira, Rohira, for being here with us. Vinamra, thank you so much for sharing your valuable inputs. And Anuj, Mr. Venkata, Raman, from the perspective of occupier, some very valuable inputs that you shared with us today. Thanks, Arun, for joining in and asking two questions to our panelists. Thank you, everyone. We had
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
I'm sure you also had. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.